The brutal murders of the Lin family in Sydney remain one of Australia's most horrific crimes. The Lin family, who had lived quietly in North Epping, were found slaughtered in their own home. 5 members of the family, Min Lin, his wife Lily Lin, her sister Irene, and their 2 young children, Henry and Terry, were murdered in cold blood, their lives cut short in the most brutal way. The investigation that followed would uncover shocking twists, leading to a revelation of a suspect no one could have predicted. Let's get into it. Min Lin and his wife Yun Lin, known as Lily, were doting parents, loving partners and a hard-working couple. The pair had met in Sydney after migrating to China as students. They soon married and had 3 children, 2 sons, 12-year-old Henry and 9-year-old Terry, and an older daughter, Brenda, who was 15. The Lin family were very close, and the siblings shared a particularly tight bond. The family lived on Boundary Road, in a nice suburb of North Epping. Lily's sister Irene also had moved in with them. Min had bought his parents a new home, which was a 30-minute drive from theirs. Min and Lily also lived a short walk away from Min's sister Kathy, her husband Robert, and their son. The murders. On the morning of the 18th of July 2009, Kathy Lin and her husband Robert C., who lived just a few minutes away from the Lin family, grew concerned when customers from Min Lin's news agency began calling them, which was mysteriously closed that day. Min Lin, known for his hard-working nature, never missed a day at the shop, so this was completely out of character for him. Kathy, understandably worried, decided to go check on her brother, along with her husband. At around 9 a.m, when Kathy and Robert arrived at the Lin home, they found the front door unlocked, which in itself was strange. As the family was known for being cautious, the ground floor appeared undisturbed, but the house was eerily silent, and no one was responding to Kathy and Robert's calls. They decided to go upstairs to check the bedrooms, and what they saw left them utterly horrified. The rooms were drenched in blood splattered from floor to ceiling. In the master bedroom, they discovered the lifeless body of Lily Lin. She had been bludgeoned to death, and the room was covered in blood. Upon making their way through the rest of the floor, each room had an equally horrifying scene. Irene's body was found in her room, in her bed. Min and Lily's 2 young sons, 12-year-old Henry and 9-year-old Terry, also were found dead in their bedroom across the corridor. Min Lin, however, was nowhere to be found. Kathy called 000 for an ambulance and struggled to explain the situation.
Hello, I need an ambulance to 55A Boundary Road.
What suburb? So it's 55A Boundary Road, Epping North, and it's a house?
Yeah.
What's the problem?
Yeah, the house,
What's wrong?
yeah. Hello?
What's wrong? What's wrong?
I'm not sure someone, I think I'm not sure.
You need to tell me why you need an ambulance. What's wrong?
Yeah, I think someone died. I'm not sure.
Why do you think someone's dying?
I don't know.
You need to tell me something. You're asking for an ambulance, but why?
Yeah, I also need a place, please.
Yeah, why? What's wrong?
Oh, yeah, please.
What is wrong? Don't scream. Just answer my question.
Yeah, I need it because I have someone to be killed.
Towards the end of the call, a hysterical Kathy could be heard pleading with her husband to not leave her alone in the house. But Robert insisted he had to go pick up her and Min's parents, leaving a distraught Kathy in the house with the dead alone. The initial speculation was that Min might have been the killer. It was assumed that he had committed the murders and then fled the scene. But as the investigation went on, it wasn't until 2 hours later that they found Min's body hidden under a blanket beside his wife, Lily. It was confirmed that Min too was a victim. His body, like the others, showed signs of brutal violence. The family was attacked between 10:30 p.m. and 2 a.m, and all 5 victims were bludgeoned to death with what appeared to be a hammer. The faces of the victims were so disfigured that forensic analysis had to be used to identify them. 4 of the victims also showed signs of asphyxiation, also known as strangulation, proving they were initially subdued before being struck, suggesting that it was a carefully planned and deliberate act of violence. The The violence was so intense that the authorities initially believed Min had been shot. However, an autopsy revealed he too had been bludgeoned. The children, Henry and Terry, had likely been awake when the attack occurred, as there were signs of a violent struggle in their room, implying they fought to survive. The only member of the family who was not present that night was Brenda, Min and Lily's 15-year-old daughter. Brenda was away on a school trip to New Caledonia. She didn't find out about the murders until later, when she checked her phone and saw a Facebook post about the deaths of her family members. Devastated, she was quickly flown back to Sydney, where she was taken in by her Aunt Kathy and her Uncle Robert. The investigation. At first, the police believed the murders were the result of a home invasion. There were no signs of forced entry, and nothing seemed to have been stolen. But the more investigators delved into the case, the more they realized how meticulously planned the crime had been. Evidence showed that the murder weapon might have been tied to the killer's wrist to prevent it from slipping during the brutal attack. One of the more disturbing pieces of evidence was the blood smudge on each bedroom door handle, except Brenda's. Her room was untouched and her door showed no bloodstains. It seemed that the killer knew Brenda wasn't home and had purposely avoided her room. This raised more questions. How did the killer know she would be away? Furthermore, the authorities found 24 shoe prints inside the house, all from a pair of Asics gel runners, a specific type of men's running shoes, an unusual model that had been discontinued. Despite a number of interviews and theories, including suspicions of the Chinese mafia or a potential robbery that Min had witnessed, no clear suspect emerged. But then, suspicion began to shift toward Robert C., Kathy's husband. Robert had a key to the Lin family home, and it was revealed that he had been struggling with jealousy toward Min Lin, who had achieved great success with his news agency while Robert's own restaurant business had failed in Melbourne. Robert had once been close to Min, but after Min's success, Robert reportedly harbored resentment, which could have provided a motive for murder. Surveillance was put in place to monitor Robert, and investigators were hoping to find some evidence that would link him to the crime. It wasn't long before they found a crucial clue. Kathy, in an interview with the police, casually mentioned that Robert had a favourite pair of Asics shoes in size 9.5, the same size as the footprints found at the scene. Days later, Robert was seen on surveillance footage destroying several Asics shoeboxes and flushing the shredded cardboard down the toilet. In May 2010, the police decided to investigate Robert and Kathy's home. It was found that Z cleaned his garage on the morning of the murders. Forensic investigators searched his home and found a stain on the floor of the garage, which was alleged as blood. DNA analysis revealed that the blood, later known as stain 91, matched the DNA of 4 of the 5 victims, although the timing of when the blood was deposited could not be confirmed. Nonetheless, this was enough for the police to charge Robert with 5 counts of murder. The trials and revelation. Robert was arrested in May 2011 and went on trial in May 2014. During the subsequent trial, shocking details were revealed, including a testimony from a jailhouse informant known as Witness A, who claimed that Robert had confessed to him about the killings. According to the informant, Robert had planned to sedate Kathy to sneak out and commit the killings. He also revealed that Robert had purchased a hammer from a bargain store and had intended to frame someone else by planting evidence at the scene. But perhaps the most disturbing revelation came later, during the trial. Brenda, now 17, gave a heartbreaking testimony in which she revealed that Robert had sexually abused her for years. She also shared the chilling fact that after the murders, the abuse had escalated. This led to a second trial in August 2014, where the prosecution argued that Robert's motive wasn't just jealousy, but also a sexual obsession with his niece. The case was further complicated when the defense questioned the physical evidence. They argued that the bloodstain in the garage could have been there for months, and that the Lin family had visited the home several times prior to the murders. The defense also contended that Robert, despite his proximity to the family home, could not have committed the murders alone without any of the victims resisting. Despite these arguments, in 2016, after several trials ended in deadlocked juries or were abandoned, Robert was convicted based on overwhelming circumstantial evidence. He was sentenced to 5 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. His appeal, arguing that the DNA evidence was unfairly prejudicial, was dismissed in 2021. The aftermath. In the aftermath of the trial, many questions remained, particularly concerning Kathy's role in the events. Kathy had continued to support Robert throughout the investigation, even lying to the police during questioning in an attempt to protect him. She claimed that she was simply trying to shield him from being framed, but the truth of the horrific crime had finally come to light, and Robert Z. remained behind bars, having destroyed not only the Lin family, but the lives of everyone connected to them. Perhaps the most tragic part of this case was Brenda's loss. She expressed deep regret over never having hugged her parents, or told them she loved them before leaving for her school trip. In the face of such a brutal crime, her grief was compounded by the overwhelming realization that her uncle was the one responsible. Brenda's life, like so many others, was shattered by the actions of the man she had once trusted. In her recent interviews, Brenda said she's still trying to rebuild her life as best as she can, and is forever grateful for how the community came together to help her. In the future, she hopes she is able to help other people and give back to everyone that supported her.